In the headlines, Economic Community of West African States directs defense chiefs to activate and send standby force to Niger. Troops ambush terrorists, neutralize 2 as notorious Boko Haram terrorists surrenders. Police rescue 9 children from cult initiation in Lagos State. And away from Nigeria, South Africa's former president, Jacob Zuma, briefly taken to prison, then released on remission process. Hello and welcome to Trust News Update. I'm Darshan Hussaina Usman. Now the news in detail. The Economic Community of West African States has resolved to deploy troops to Niger to restore constitutional order in the country. The regional bloc has therefore directed its Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff to activate its standby force and deploy to Niger. The West African leaders reached the resolution on Thursday after an extraordinary summit in Abuja. Kehinde Amodu reports.
All diplomatic efforts made by the regional bloc to resolve the crisis in Niger have been defiantly repelled by the military leadership in the country. To compound issues, the junta has ignored the ultimatum given to it to restore constitutional order in Niger and has gone ahead to form a new government. Obviously angered by the recalcitrance of the Niger junta, West African leaders have resolved to uphold all measures and principles agreed upon by the extraordinary summit held on the 30th of July 2023.
Taking note of the expiration of the 1-week ultimatum given for the restoration of constitutional order in the Republic of Niger, decide as follows. Direct the President of the Commission to monitor the implementation of the sanctions. Direct the Committee of the Chief of Defense Staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force with all its elements immediately. Order the deployment of the ECOWAS standby force to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger.
And you will see from the communique of this extraordinary summit that no option is taken off the table, including the use of force as a last resort.
But the ECOWAS authority is keeping all options on the table for the peaceful resolution of the crisis.
And we still look to engage the party involved, including the coup leaders, in honest discussion to convince them to relinquish power as suggested and reinstate President Bazoum. It is our duty to exhaust all avenues of engagement to ensure a swift return to constitutional governance in Niger.
In maintaining its stance, ECOWAS leaders are aware of the underlying international interests by different players and are asking the African Union to endorse all its decisions. They are also calling for the support of all partner countries and the United Nations in efforts to ensure a quick restoration of constitutional order in Niger. From the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit in Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
The decision of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to deploy troops to Niger should not be seen as the regional body moving against the country or as the decision of an individual member nation. President of the ECOWAS Commission, Omar Aliyu Toure, says it should rather be seen as a resolve of West African leaders to uphold agreements all members countries have signed to. Again, Kehinde Amodu has the report.
By directing its Committee of Chiefs of Defense Staff to activate its standby force and deploy to Niger, ECOWAS has not declared war on its member state. The president of the ECOWAS Commission explains that the option of peace remains very much on the table.
ECOWAS has been engaged in peaceful and diplomatic efforts to effect the restoration of constitutional order in Niger. And the communique has made it very clear the authority has kept that window open.
But it seems the consensus among West African leaders is that the military junta in Niger should be eased out.
We do not accept, we will not accept coup d'etats. And I think these putschists must go. If I don't let Bazoum out to be able to exercise his mandate, I think we should move ahead and get them out. Bazoum is a democratically elected president. He should be freed. He should be able to exercise his mandate freely.
The ECOWAS decision is also not being driven by a single country, but is a collective agenda of leaders of the regional bloc.
So this is a regional initiative. It's not an individual country going after another country, or a community going after, or the community going against citizens of the community. Nigerians are ECOWAS citizens, and I think it is important we all recall that before the attempted coup, nobody imposed sanctions on Niger.
I want to insist, this is not a Nigerian affair. It's an affair of ECOWAS. ECOWAS is nearly 400 million people, 240 million in Nigeria, 140 million in the West African Monetary Union. So this is 400 million people. If we don't have democracy, do you think that our countries will be able to move ahead? This coup d'etat is not acceptable. We should put an end to it.
The outcome of the extraordinary summit in Abuja has sent reverberations across the region. All eyes are on ECOWAS to see if it will follow the path of diplomacy and peace, or if, at the last resort, it will be forced to roll out the tanks. From the federal capital, Kehinde Amudu, Trust TV News.
Now on security, the Nigerian Army says troops of Joint Task Force Northeast Operation Haɗin-kai have killed 2 suspected Boko Haram terrorists crossing point along Kuka in Konduga local government area of Borno State. Director, Army Public Relations Brigadier General Onyema Nwachukwu, in a statement on Friday, said troops recovered 63 rounds of 12.7mm ammunition, 1 improvised explosive device shell, among others. He added that due to the aggressive operations of troops against Boko Haram terrorist enclaves, a notorious bandit surrendered to troops of 222 Battalion of Gezuwa, Konduga local government area. He said items recovered from the suspect includes 1 AK-47 rifle, 1 magazine, and 26 rounds of 7.62mm special ammunition, adding that the suspect is currently undergoing profiling for further necessary action. Police in Enugu on Thursday neutralized 3 gunmen while others escaped with severe bullet wounds after a gun duel with hoodlums in Imofu community of Iboeze North local government area of Enugu State. The State Police Public Relations Officer, DSP Daniel Ndukwe, disclosed this in a statement on Friday in Enugu. He said that items recovered from the hoodlums include 4 pump-action guns, 1 locally fabricated revolver gun and pistol, each with 67 live cartridges, military camouflage uniforms, suspected fabrics of IPOB insignia, objects suspected to be amulets, and others. The police spokesman noted that the state's Commissioner of Police, Ahmed Amani, had reaffirmed the unwavering commitment of the police to weed out unrepented criminals in the state. The Lagos State Police Command has rescued 9 children aged between 9 and 14 who are about to be initiated into a cult group. The State Police Public Relations Officer, Benjamin Hundein, who confirmed the rescue in a statement on Thursday, highlighted the disturbing details surrounding the children's ordeal. According to Hundeyin, the children whose identities have been withheld for their safety were discovered during or after the initiation process. He added that incisions were found below the children's lower lips, which indicated their compelled participation in the court activities. Hundeyin, however, did not provide any further specific information regarding the operation itself, but confirmed that an investigation is ongoing into the matter. The Borno State Governor Umar Zulum has assured that all security challenges will be eliminated before the end of his second term. He stated this during the official inauguration of his cabinet and other political appointments at the government house in Maiduguri. The state government said it will continue to focus on health, agriculture, urbanization of Maiduguri, address flooding and provide more palliatives to the vulnerable to cushion the effects of economic hardship faced in the state. The governor swore in 7 commissioners, 3 advisors and a permanent secretary.
All the promises that have been made to the good people of Borno State, inshallah, shall be fulfilled. We shall ensure potable water supply within metropolitan and all other local government areas. Ensure that we provide the needed manpower required at our primary health care centers and our hospitals. Ensure that we have availability of drugs and consumables in our hospitals and primary health care centers, inshallah. Address the annual flooding problems in our state. Ensure agricultural development, and ensure that palliative is being given to the less privileged in the state. Government will very soon procure more buses in order to alleviate the sufferings of the people as a result of the removal of fuel subsidy. Very soon we shall procure more buses, and civil servants will also be supported.
Adamawa State Governor Ahmadu Fintiri has vowed to replace any member of his executive council engaged in any corrupt act while serving the state. The governor, who stated this during the oath-taking of the newly appointed 23 commissioners in the state, noted that their assignment is not a call to enrich themselves. Salis Lawang has the report.
Governor Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri said they should abstain from corrupt tendencies and work for the peace and development of the state, saying his new council is tied to value addition. He added that they will be the most watched and scrutinized commissioners in the recent history of Adamawa State, reiterating that the state government is setting up a governance delivery machinery with key performance indicators that will be periodically used.
With some of you who were part of the last council, I must tell you that the new charge is to double every bit of what was deployed in the last administration. Those of you who are coming in fresh, I want to tell you that the stakes now, more than ever before, are higher. And we cannot afford to fail our people.
With the new rules in the discharge of governance in Adamawa, members of the State Executive Council have a huge task ahead of them.
Continuity in every ramification is essential to development and progress. Hence, I'd like to advise and inform the people of Adamawa State to be patient with us as they were in the first 4 years. I mean, clearly the achievements are there to speak for themselves. I don't think any government, right from Gongola time till this day, has performed or has achieved as much as the government of His Excellency Right Honorable Ahmadu Umaru Fintiri has achieved.
On behalf of my colleagues, we assure you of working with you in trust and with the fear of Allah to see that we end the delivery of democracy dividends to the good people of Adamawa as contained in your State.
Government is not an easy thing the way people think. It is when you go in there, you will see the real position of the governance. But the problem we are having is people are eager to accumulate wealth. Please, my dear commissioners, don't think of that one, that accumulation, that finance, don't think. But put the state in mind and Nigeria in general.
6 out of the 24 are returning commissioners. Salis Lawan, Trust TV News, Yola.
You're still watching Trust News Update. Coming up after the break. Gombe residents lament hike in prices of prescription drugs. We'll be back. Welcome back and thanks for staying with us on Trust News Update. Here's a recap of our top stories. We told you that Economic Community of West African States directs defense chiefs to activate and send standby force to Niger. You also heard that troops ambush terrorists, neutralized 2 as notorious Boko Haram terrorist surrenders. Moving to more stories, the healthcare delivery system in Katsina State is on the brink of a crash as medical doctors in the state are overstretched due to paucity of hands. This alarming situation is leaving the healthcare system in a state of crisis, with only emergency services being provided at some hospitals. Jamil Mabai was given an exclusive access to some hospitals where he filed in this report.
Looking pale and exhausted, doctors in Katsina are overwhelmed with workload. In the last quarter, 25 doctors have left the state services. And according to Dr. Saminu, an additional 20 are planning to leave this month.
The state of affairs of health in Katsina State, so to say, is in a very sorry state. I will tell you every day where I work, I almost say on a daily basis, I signed resignation letters. In fact, on daily basis, they are living, gravitating either within the state, migrating from the state services to the federal establishment or to the NGOs that we have in the state, or some of them have left for abroad.
In Ture Specialist Hospital and the State General Hospital, only emergency services are rendered. The situation is alarming.
Because of the shortage of manpower, the General Hospital, O&G section, they have to close down their gynae clinic. And it also happened the same thing in Ture. Because of the manpower, we cannot continue. We just have to provide emergency services only. Unfortunately, as I'm talking to you today, we don't have any ophthalmologists at that eye center today. When I took over, we have 3 pediatricians working with the state government. And now, as I'm talking to you, we have only 1 pediatrician remaining. That's in General Hospital Katsina. So, and then when you look at the subspecialties, like in the O&G, was the same story. At a time, we have about 6 gynecologists in the state. Now we have just barely 1 or 2 gynecologists working with the state government. It's the same story with other specialties. We have only 1 nephrologist, only 1 urologist, one neurosurgeon. So you find it very difficult. Even those that are around, you find it very difficult to work.
With an estimated population of 10 million people, there are less than 100 active doctors available.
Mostly doctors look at their career progression. And then secondly is the remunerations, the welfare package, and then the working condition. You assured me of my own career progression, which is not applicable in the state government. And then the other issue is the working condition. I will tell you that we are, so to say, still offering a healthcare services that is more than 50 years old, because the equipment, the gadgets that we are supposed to use that are latest are not there. So you realize that even a specialist only offers some rudimentary services, where his friends are providing a high-tech surgery. He here is limited, still providing the services like he's still in the 1970s.
According to the World Health Organization, a doctor-patient ratio of 1 to 600 is the basic standard. In Katsina, it is 1 to 100,000. The situation is further exacerbated by the emergence of bandits' attack in Katsina. The new state government says it has a clear strategic health plan in place to address the deficit in the sector.
The agenda, especially of His Excellency, the transformation agenda, health component in that respect, concurs or it keys into the health system, touches virtually every component of the health system, especially the human resource for health.
Dr. Samini is worried after witnessing 2 of his colleagues collapsing due to workload. In this state of distress, more doctors will certainly leave the state services. Jamil Mobay, Trust TV, Katsina.
Residents of Gombe State say they are battling soaring prices of prescription drugs in medicine stores amidst the rising cost of living in the country. Some families who spoke to Trust TV say they can no longer afford medication and other consumables for their loved ones in hospitals due to skyrocketing prices. Ibrahim Ismail reports.
Abdullahi Usman, who has been working to fund medical bills of his dependent, reached a nearby store to buy medicines prescribed for the patient, but could not do so due to soaring prices. I came to buy drugs, which cost 3,300 naira, but I couldn't afford the price. I reduced the drugs to meet my budget of 2,000 naira. We are struggling to eat. We have been here for almost a month. Drugs are expensive. A syringe sold 20 naira before now cost 50 naira. Drugs that used to be 1,000 naira is now 1,400 or 1,500 naira. Due to the current economic hardship in the country, many Nigerians are already struggling to put food on the table. This is now worsened by their inability to afford some over-the-counter drugs for the sick relatives.
Or something of their belongings, you can give them drugs. After treatment, they will bring back, they will get the money and bring it for us. And sometimes you have to buy just the one that they can afford and start using it for the meantime.
Those who could not afford doctor's prescription are settling for cheaper drugs despite the consequences involved.
And when you see patients cutting down the number or the frequency of drugs, ultimately the desired effect will not be achieved. So it means it's more of wasting money and it will cause a lot of problems. If it's antibiotic, there will be what we call resistance. There should be a deliberate effort by government and at the same time non-governmental organizations and philanthropists to subsidize the drugs. If at all we want the people and the masses to get the right drug for the right ailment. Because at the moment, drug is very expensive because what determines the price is demand and supply.
Since the beginning of the year, Nigerians have survived tough times, from the scarcity of the redesigned Naira notes to the current hardship caused by the removal of fuel subsidy. Ibrahim Ismail, Trust TV News, Gombe.
Away from Nigeria, a senior prisons official said South Africa's former president Jacob Zuma on Friday appeared at the Estcourt correctional facility before being released under a remission process. The announcement comes after the Constitutional Court last month rejected an attempt to overturn a decision by a lower court that Zuma's release on medical parole was unlawful and as such should return to prison to finish his sentence. Zuma's initial arrest 2 years ago led to violent protests across South Africa that saw over 300 people killed. Zuma, 81, was sentenced to 15 months imprisonment for defying a court order to participate in a corruption inquiry into high-level corruption during his 9-year tenure as president. He handed himself over to authorities in June 2021, but was released on medical parole due to ill health 2 months later. He denies corruption allegations. And finally, in sports, Nigeria Professional Football League club Katsina United have announced the appointment of Tony Bolus as their new head coach. Bolus takes the place of Usman Abdullah, who left the post following the expiration of his contract. The experienced tactician, who signed a 2-year contract with the Chenji Boys, once managed the defunct Giwa FC, Malumfashi FC and MFM FC. Bolus, 58, was also an assistant coach at Rangers in 2017. Katsina United gained promotion to the NPFL at the Nigerian National League Super 8 playoffs last month. And with that, we've come to the end of Trust News Update. Don't forget to follow us across all our social media platforms. I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Thanks for watching.